Bada Valley, located in the Lore Lindu National Park in Central Sulawesi, Indonesia, is home to a mysterious collection of hundreds of cylindrical stone jars and numerous humanoid-looking statues whose origin and purpose cannot be explained. The Bada Valley Megaliths were introduced to the international scientific community in the early 20th century by missionary and ethnographer Albert C. Kruyt, who documented them. He observed that local communities would bring offerings to the statues to ensure a good harvest or to seek rain during droughts. Yet the locals themselves didn't know anything about the creators of the megaliths, stating they had always been there long before their ancestors settled the area. Modern estimates suggest there are over 400 megalithic artifacts scattered throughout the Bada, Besoa, and Napu valleys in Central Sulawesi, with the giant jars numbering around 400 and the humanoid statues being only around 30. The jars, known as Kalamba, and the statues, referred to as Arca, are found in clusters as well as isolated locations, indicating that they were part of a widespread and organized cultural practice. No clear evidence links these megaliths to any known historical civilizations in the region. It's unknown how old these structures are, but researchers believe they are at least 5,000 years old. The statues are often depicted with extraordinarily large heads with straight bodies and no legs. They have large genitalia carved onto them, and the position of the hands of the statues emphasizes that area. Some of the Bada Valley statues were female and also look like they were depicted as being pregnant. The largest statue is known as Pelindo, which translates to the entertainer in Indonesian, and stands over 15 feet tall or 4.5 meters. Its exact weight is unknown, but it's likely around 10 tons. Many people noted a remarkable similarity between the Indonesian statues and other megalithic statues around the world, such as the stone statues of San Agustin, which also have large heads, small bodies with no legs. Interestingly, their hand position is also very similar. And if we make the comparison with the Moai statues of Easter Island, the similarities become even more striking. The hand postures and the statues themselves exhibit fascinating similarities. In one of our previous documentaries, where we discussed Easter Island and the Moai statues, we noted that the same hand posture can be seen in the pillar carvings of one of the world's oldest megalithic sites, Göbekli Tepe. In fact, in Karahan Tepe, which is another significant site in Turkey, there is this large statue depicting a man holding his phallus with both hands. Keep in mind that Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe are both around 12,000 years old, which is around 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. And take a look at this statue also from Turkey, known as the Urfa Man. The Urfa Man is considered the oldest known life-size sculpture of a human figure in the world, dating back to approximately 9,000 BCE. Once again, the statue showcases the same posture and the exact same hand placement. But how is all of this possible? Why do we see the exact same symbolism in various cultures scattered all across the globe? Was there some sort of connection, or perhaps a global ancient civilization that united all of these places? Perhaps even stranger than the statues are the gigantic cylindrical jars of Bada Valley. These ancient artifacts, found in Lore Lindu National Park, a 2,200 square kilometer protected area, continue to puzzle researchers and locals alike. Situated to the south of the park, Bada Valley is home to hundreds of these massive stone jars, known locally as Kalambas. Despite their significance, much about these megalithic structures remains unknown. The exact age of the stone jars is uncertain, with estimates ranging from 1,000 to 5,000 years old. Their mysterious nature is compounded by the fact that local people do not claim any historical connection to them. The stones used to create these jars are not native to Bada Valley, suggesting they were transported from a distant location, a feat that seems implausible given the logistics involved. The term Kalambas translates to bathtubs for a king, which adds an intriguing yet confusing layer to their mystery. It is hard to imagine a king bathing in a tub located in the middle of nowhere, let alone requiring hundreds of such tubs scattered across a remote valley. Furthermore, the jars were once covered by heavy stone lids, indicating they were not intended for bathing. These lids are so massive that moving them would be very challenging, making the concept of their use as bathtubs even more unlikely. Scientists, on the other hand, believe they were used as tombs. However, this theory is also unlikely, considering some jars, like those found in Padang Tempura, are not even deep enough for a human body to fit inside, further complicating the mystery. There are also jars the interior of which is separated in two by a ridge, with a depth difference of no more than 2 inches or 5 centimeters. What purpose did these strange, nearly solid, massive stone cylinders serve? Where, when, and how were they quarried? How were they transported from their unknown quarry sites to the thickly forested mountains and valleys of Central Sulawesi? Who undertook this monumental task, and why? Many of the stone lids had zoomorphic designs featuring carvings of animals, which, strangely, do not match any of the local species found in Sulawesi's tropical jungles. Though less common, some jars have carvings of human-like figures or faces. What was most remarkable were the jars that have these perfect horizontal lines. But what kind of manufacturing process would leave such marks? Some believe the jars were made with some kind of stone softening technology that allowed their builders to shape the jars like clay. Take a look at this video showcasing the process of making large clay jars. To make these lines, the craftsmen use a machine that spins the clay jar, and then they shape the soft clay. Judging by the horizontal lines on the Bada Valley jars, it looks like this is exactly how they were made. But how is this possible? How did they turn hard granite into a soft material like clay? Moreover, what kind of technology did they possess to be able to spin these gigantic stone jars that primitive people shouldn't even be able to lift? Some theories suggest that these cylinders might have been used for a mineral separation process. This is supported by the fact that granular gold is found in high concentrations in the surrounding areas. Take a look at the burn marks on this giant jar. It looks like some kind of melted metal or maybe gold was flowing from it. Is everything we observe so far the work of an advanced prehistoric civilization that possessed some kind of advanced technology, thousands of years before mainstream science is willing to acknowledge? But if this is true, wouldn't we find similar jars in other places in the world? Curiously, in Laos, which is around 1,900 miles or 3,000 kilometers away from Bada Valley, we see remarkably similar stone jars. If we compare the zoomorphic designs on the lids of the Indonesian jars with those found in Laos, we can clearly see a correlation. Does that mean they are built by the same lost civilization? The Plain of Jars in Laos is one of Southeast Asia's most intriguing archaeological sites, featuring around 3,000 large stone jars scattered across the landscape. The stone jars vary in size, with some reaching heights of up to 3 meters or 10 feet and weighing several tons. The jars are spread across more than 90 different sites and are carved from sandstone, granite, and limestone. Most jars are cylindrical with a flat or slightly convex bottom, and they often have a rim at the top. Some jars feature decorative carvings, although many are plain. Lids have been found at some sites, suggesting that, like the jars of Indonesia, the Laos jars were also originally covered. Unfortunately, most of the jars are broken as this area was heavily bombed by American forces during a little-known conflict called the Secret War. During the Laotian Civil War between 1964 and 1969, the Plain of Jars was targeted by the United States Air Force, fighting North Vietnamese and Lao communist groups. These heavy bombardments destroyed many of the stone jars in the region. Over 262 million cluster bombs were dropped there, with an estimated 80 million bombs that did not explode laying scattered around the area, posing a fatal threat to anyone who strays of the known safe paths. Efforts to clear these bombs are slow but ongoing. 7 jar sites have been cleared so far, but estimates suggest that fewer than 10% of the jars have been formally investigated. Despite the ongoing efforts to rid the Plain of Jars of unexploded munitions, dozens of Laotians tragically perish each year due to accidental detonations. Archaeologists initially estimated the jars to be some 2,000 years old, which would make them products of the Iron Age. However, a recent study published in 2021 has revealed that they may, in fact, be much older than that, being at least 3,000 years old. It's unknown who built these jars and to what civilization they belong. The people of Laos have an old legend about the jars, passed down from generations. They believe that Laos was once home to a race of giants led by their king Khun Chung. These giants waged a long and hard war against an evil enemy, ultimately emerging victorious. To celebrate and toast his victory, vast quantities of rice wine known as Lao Lao would be required. To brew and store this wine, King Khun Chung ordered the creation of huge stone jars. These jars were not only used to store the wine but also served as immense drinking vessels for the giants. The giants celebrated their hard-earned triumph by drinking from these colossal jars, marking the Plain of Jars as a place of great festivity and victory. The jars were quarried some 10 kilometers away, which is around 6.5 miles. It's unknown how an ancient primitive civilization could transport these massive stone jars through a rough jungle area uphill. Recently, it turned out the Plain of Jars wasn't the only site in Laos with such artifacts, as researchers have uncovered 15 additional sites with more than 100 huge stone jars deep in the remote and mountainous forests of Laos. These places are dangerous as there are large populations of tigers, so humans rarely venture there. The newly discovered jars were similar to those found on the Plain of Jars, but some varied in the types of stone that they were made from, their shapes and the way the rims of the jars were formed. What surprised the researchers was that nowhere near were any signs of an ancient human settlement in the region. This find indicates that the civilization that built these jars was spread out over a much wider area than previously thought. The mystery deepened when, in 2020, a survey of the dense Assam forest in India, conducted by the same team that made the recent Laos discoveries, found that the forest contained a number of large stone jars similar to those in Indonesia and Laos. This site is approximately 500 miles, or 800 kilometers away from the Plain of Jars in Laos, and more than 2,500 miles, or 4,000 kilometers away from the Bada Valley in Indonesia. All told, researchers in the region have found approximately 800 jars in an area spanning 115 square miles. They vary in shape and size. Some of the jars are tall and cylindrical, while the others are partly or fully buried in the ground. In the words of archaeologist Nicholas Skopal, who was part of the research, "We still don't know who made the giant jars or where they lived. It's all a bit of a mystery. We have barely scratched the surface here. It's a lot of jungle and forest. We've literally only looked at one little area. There must be more because every time we wander out, we find new sites. The jars appear to have been carved from sandstone boulders, perhaps mined at a quarry in Assam or a nearby creek or riverbed. The discovery is very recent, and estimations about the age of the jars are still unclear. Nevertheless, researchers are acknowledging the connection between the megalithic jars in Indonesia, Laos, and India, stating that this is a unique archaeological phenomenon that suggests a cultural relationship between them. The majority were found in poor condition resulting from forest growth, burning, and local road-cutting projects. The vessels vary in shape, size, decoration, and condition. While some of the jars are tall and cylindrical, others are partially or fully buried in the ground. Like the stone jars in Laos and Indonesia, the Assam artifacts were located along hills and ridgelines. In conclusion, the exact purpose of the numerous stone jars across Asia is still a mystery. Research is underway to uncover more about their origins, functions, and who created them. Regardless of whether they were part of a lost advanced ancient civilization or an unknown Stone Age culture, they remain one of the most mysterious and fascinating artifacts discovered in our recent times. Thank you for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the prehistoric advanced technological capabilities of our ancestors, you can watch our documentary on pre-Egyptian technology, where we explore numerous advanced megalithic sites built by an unknown civilization long before the dynastic Egyptians. The link is in the top pinned comment.